Gotta be careful with those sources. Hey, y'all. I got some fuzzy on my microphone. Sorry about that. And, okay. Anyway, hey, y'all, and welcome back to a writing stream. It's been a hot minute since I've last done one of these, so welcome in. Trying to get a couple things set up here on my end so I can make sure I can see chat if anything goes through. Make sure things look good. Twitch is weird with the bitrate, but other than that, everything seems to be okay. Things look good on the YouTube end. If there's any issues, though, I trust y'all to let me know. I'm going to go ahead and just say right now, if there are any issues, just call it out in the chat. I'm going to be focused on writing. I ended yesterday with 3,110 words. So my goal by the end of the day today, whether it's on stream or not, is 6,110. My goal is 3,000 words per day. Also, just as a bit of an FYI, I didn't turn on any of my charity thingies. That's fine. I'll work on that after the fact. As many of you know, I did get a new job. It's been taking up a lot of my time. That's why I haven't done, excuse me, much of anything content creation-y lately. And so I did throw this together yesterday. It took more time than I thought it would. And so that's why I didn't stream yesterday when I was hoping to. But, again, things like that happen. Disappointed, yes, but not going to let it crush me. I was able to get the writing done, and so today I've got, I'm creating a whole to-do list. Actually, I have a, alright, so, DJ timers, creating a quick to-do list for myself so I don't forget. DJ timers and add timers. But yeah, I'm going to try to stream at least a couple of hours on the weekends. Hopefully more than just 2, but we'll see how it goes. Actually, let me be completely honest. During the week, I intend to stream for like an hour between 8 and 9-ish. Probably not going to be much longer than that. Maybe there will be some earlier streams than that and ending around 9-ish. But 8 to 9 is when I plan on streaming during the weekdays. There might be some pop-up streams at other points too, but that's just how it's going to be. And then this upcoming weekend is actually, there's not going to be any streams. I did test mobile streaming. It's possible. I might just do it on either Twitch or YouTube, not both though, just because it feels overwhelming to do it on both. So we'll see how that goes, but this weekend's going to be mostly family. I'm going on a family trip. So if I get some time, sure. If not, please don't stress. I will write, but I won't be, but the streaming is basically lower on the priority list. But when I'm back from the trip, again, it'll go back to the 1 hour a night streams, and then on the weekends, I'll try to do, at least a couple of hours. As always, revenue for the streams goes to bbdj.org. For November, I will be matching the revenue with a donation plus a dollar donation of my own. It's kind of TBD on where that's going to land, just because we've had a few expenses come up this month already, on a personal level. But that's me. How are y'all doing? And then of course, come, Thanksgiving, the stream will be a little bit more chaotic then too. But the stream was going to be purely writing. I'm not going to do any gaming or any of the distracting things that I did last year. But last year was also streaming for like a full day. So let's go ahead and get... Oh yeah, I also want to call out, if you are watching on YouTube, you can impact this too. The street, like the writing is like a small sliver right now. I call it base, but the more viewers I get, so if I get like 5 viewers between both platforms, Twitch and YouTube, I will, it'll be half a screen of text, and then when I get a full, like not full, but you'll get the full screen or relatively full screen, when I get 10 viewers or greater. So just a little bit of a perk to, to invite you to come check it out and get your friends to check it out. No money needed, just come and be here with me. And then, if you are on Twitch, YouTube, I don't have super stickers or anything like that open yet. But on Twitch, if you do donate bits, 1,000 bits gives you a character bio card. I have one created right now, so I'd only be able to create one. I'd have to stop the stream. Well, I'd have to stop my writing and create one if I were to get more than 1,000 bits. But 1,000 bits gives us a new bio card that'll go in the area above the avatar's head, and above the avatar's head, and if I run out of character bios, then it'll go into location, like details, like where the cities are and things like that. But for now, there's only one character bio card, so, and those, and the writing slivers, those change day to day, so it'll go back to this little bit portion tomorrow when I stream. But the location bio cards, the info cards, basically, those will be a 4-river rotation. Alright, I think I've rambled enough. Let's go ahead and get to writing. So, if you have any questions about the story, feel free to ask. This is basically a continuation story of a that I did 12 years ago. And the story's kind of just been marinating in my brain. And basically, the hero of the story, I don't know how to describe it succinctly, but there's basically some political meetings that need to go on, and the heroine of the story is antsy and wants to get things going, and I feel like during editing this might be pared down, but we'll see. Anyway, alright, so I'm going to read back the last few paragraphs, and then we'll get to writing. He made a surprised face at her statement. You were intending to visit Prancia? She nodded. Why? To learn science. Science? He asked, the surprised expression still not leaving his features. By the way, this is kind of a medieval setting, no magic, no technology for the most part. So science is relatively new. Science? He asked, the surprised expression still not leaving his features. It's another way to fight. In Karlath, they use things like chemicals and bind it with other materials to make things like bombs that glow brightly when thrown, she explained, using the example of the items she had used a few days ago. The memory caused her to glance over at Raimi, who was now conscious, barely, and sitting on the ground some distance away. Oh, he was bound on the ground. Sitting bound some distance away. The horse that he had been slung over was now wandering the grass fields in search of food. The knight thought for a second before shaking his head. I might have heard of something like that, but if I had, it wasn't in any form where I needed to commit it to memory. If there was anything like that being used for weaponry, it might not be reliable yet, he explained. Disha's eyes narrowed in confusion. The way that... And now I'm back to writing, so... the way that Keshif explained it to her, he made it seem like Prancia was at the forefront of science research. If they weren't, then why did she bother coming all this way? Was he perhaps misled? The knight must have noticed her expression because he quickly added, because I'll keep quickly in there for now. That's not to say it doesn't exist, just that it might not be, just that it might not be relevant to me. That only did a little to calm Deja's nerves. No. To calm Deja's confusion. Why wouldn't they want their warriors to know about science that can help them fight? You've never heard of science? She asked skeptically. Now it was his turn to look confused. I just mentioned that it was not something that I committed to memory, even if I had. Science promises a great new way to fight, she protested. How could you not commit something like that to memory? He shrugged. He doesn't even have a name, this poor guy. And he's arguing with her. He shrugged. Unless I can use it in battle. Unless it's something unless it's something I can use immediately in battle, it's not of use to me. Being told that you can fight with something amazing means nothing until you actually are trained in the application of using that something. Deja nodded her understanding. Her confusion relaxing somewhat. She wasn't sure she, her general idea of using the science in her battles was imagining how it could be used and requesting the science men to make it a reality for her. 1 sec. Her general idea of use science requesting reality for her. In essence, she was operating on the opposite notion of what this knight was operating on. He needed it to be real before he could accept it. She knew the possibility was there and wanted it to be real as quickly as possible. One more sec. Alright, I need to be right back real quick, guys. Someone just asked me a question and I need to step away from the computer to take a look at something. Kind of important. So, sorry about this, but I will be right back. so sorry about that. It was kind of important. I needed to, somebody used to live with me, and they were basically making sure that some important paperwork didn't, get left behind. So, kind of a timely thing. So anyway, where were we? Alright. So, Bija nodded her understanding, her confusion relaxing somewhat. Her general idea of using science in her battles was imagining how it could be used and requesting the science men to make it a reality for her. In essence, she was operating on the opposite notion of what this knight was operating on. He needed it to be real before he could accept it. She knew the possibility was there and wanted it to be real as quickly as possible. Wanted to make it real as quickly as possible. So that is why why did you go through Skylark? He asked. This man was being awfully chatty for being a military man, Deja thought to herself. Why'd you go through Skylark when there were better openings further east? Your contingent. The contingent that followed you. Use that opening. He inquired. She shrugged. She didn't really care to tell him the details of her plan to make it to Florencia and then to Praencia. I think I'm spelling these names, but I'll go. That's what editing's for, right? That's what editing's for. Alright, she shrugged. She didn't really care to tell him the details of her plan to make it to Florencia and then to Praencia. I just followed my feet. They took me into Skylark. No. It was the easiest way to get out of Karbath, she explained. I'm sure you know it wasn't exactly this journey isn't exact. I'm sure you know this journey isn't. No, she's not going to explain further. 1 sec. Alright, cool. Okay, sorry. Alright, she shrugged. Her eyes turned southward, where the border of Karlath met both the borders of Sylark and Florida. I honestly don't remember how to spell it. I have the file open. I just don't want to. Oh no, I don't have the file open. I closed it. Oops. That's fine. But yeah, I don't want to really open it right now. Just to double check. That's what editing's for. Yay, editing. Alright, she explained. Her eyes turned southward for the Ornea, but more importantly, where the pile of burned bodies was lit. Oh shoot, it's still the same day. They hadn't rested yet. I need to create a timeline. That's one thing that Y-Writer has, is the ability to keep track of time. But Y-Writer doesn't easily allow for cross-platform capabilities, plus you have to pay for the mobile version. So that's a no-go for me. Anyway, that's why I'm using Google and doing it this way, which is fine. I've used Google for the last several, I don't know how many years. And it's served me well. More than likely dying out into embers as they spoke. Or the pile of burned Karlathian bodies dying out as they spoke. I don't know what time it is. Like push into the next day, I guess, but still. Because shoot. It's fine. It's fine. I won't. He regarded her with a questioning gaze, but said no more as he wiped his hands clean of any of his horse's spittle. Now that the hay was gone, he was feeding his horse hay. Instead of words, he walked over to where Rainey was sitting, staring off into the distance with a stunned look on his face. On his beaten face. Deja allowed herself to smirk. She felt like she did pretty good. Feeding him the way she did. And still managing to keep the foul man alive. She watched as the night captain crouched and tried to speak with the raven-haired man. The captive man said nothing. However, this was similar to how they. This was similar to earlier when he had originally set him down. Apparently, Bijah's beating was too thorough. Set him down. Apparently, Bijah's beating scared him from ever speaking again. Alright, let's see, what else? Alright, so the next time we come back to this spot is going to be during the meeting. Okay, we'll go with Luca next. Okay. Alright, so chapter 21. That's not what I wanted to do. There we go. Luca rode back into her camp. Hours after the fall of night, Luca rode back into her camp alone. There was no other rider behind her. No other Azor mounted beside her, and no prisoner being dragged along behind her. She knew this, she knew those who were watching the perimeter. Likely sending word back and forth to each other about her suspicious return. But this was not. But this is not the time to allow their whispers to. This is not the time to allow their whispers to impact her duty. The first thing she had to do was go find Elder Elkin and his guest. Slipping off of her mare, off of her horse, she strode quickly toward the tiger skin tent, where she had last seen the leader and the emissary. Entering. Last seen the leader and the emissary before she left to locate her brother and the Foreseen. No one was posted by the Would it be tent door? Flaps? Entry. But no one was... Elder Elkin normally wouldn't want such, what's the word? He wouldn't want such, attention? No. He wouldn't want guards posted just for him. But for a guest, it made sense to have someone keep watch, if for nothing else, than to ensure that the guest felt safe in their space. Quickly glanced around. Everyone was busy either sleeping or tending to evening tasks of preparing the camp for the next morning. There was no one who could be able to spare her a moment. There's no one who could be able to spare her a moment. And if there was, they might not be able to assist her with her question. Then again, she realized, her eyes coming back to the leather, to the coated leather entry. Elder Elkin and that man. Shoot, what's his name? He's a counselor. Pray. No, not pray. Oh man. I had it earlier today too. That man. She doesn't remember his name. The counselor from Karlach, whatever his name might have been. Were probably soundly in their sleep at this point. She'll poke her head in. She'll poke her head in quietly. Observe the tent. If they were awake, they were awake. Oh, she would be able to see colors light through it, wouldn't she? Maybe. Who knows? She would speak to them. If they were asleep, discussions would wait until morning. Quietly cursing the thickness of the material, she quietly cursing the thickness of the material. for not being thin enough to see candlelight through. Haha! See what I did there? Candlelight through. She gently parted the flaps of the tent and stuck her head. And slowly, carefully stuck in a hand and then her head. Basically, she's protecting her head because if somebody's going to attack her and she's stuck in her hand, she'd just lose a hand, as opposed to her head. The interior was dark. There were no lights on within at all. Good sign. The men were likely asleep. She couldn't just allow herself to assume that was the case. However, she stayed where she was for several moments, allowing her eyes to adjust to the darkness. She stayed where she was for several moments, allowing her eyes to adjust to the darkness. Once the outlines of the tent's interior were able to be discerned, she allowed herself a slow, meandering, not gaze, a slow meandering view of the space. There were, of course, poles to keep the roof well above the men's heads. Pastine, I think was his name. I don't know. I mean, I do know, but I know it because I wrote it down in the past, so I'll have to go back to take a look. There were, of course, poles to keep the roof above the men's heads. And the outlines of furniture that looked similar to tables or plush lounge chairs. Only this tent would have something as comfortable as that. There were no body shapes that she could discern on the chairs, however. She allowed her gaze to go more toward the floor. But saw nothing there either. Just heavy shadows. And the occasional basket. I'm going to have to ask someone. She said, or she thought to herself in disappointment as she pulled her head out of the tent, shaking her hair back in place. She looked around for someone who might know where the elder and the visitor were. Maybe they were back at the elder's tent? But surely the pompous visitor wouldn't allow himself to be taken there. Would he? Yuka shrugged to herself. People could be surprising sometimes. So it was rare. She pivoted on her heel and made her way to Elder Elkins. And I'm literally just using his name instead of leader for word count. You know that little trick that I like to do. Alright. And she pivoted on her heel and made her way to Elder Elkins' tent, which was much more modest by comparison. While it was also made of leathers, this was simple. This was regular leathers stitched together by there were no exotic animals. Well, this is made of leathers. There are no exotic animals in the sourcing of this material. It was also much thinner than the other tent, which made Lucas look. It was also much. The fact that this tent was also dark as she approached made Luca slow down her pace. Elder Elkin was not entertaining the guest in this tent after all. Could they possibly be both asleep inside of it? This tent, the elder's tent, was much smaller than the tent that was set up for the visitor. There was no way the two of them could easily sleep within. Still, the tracker had to do her duty. However, following the same precaution as before, she opened the tent flaps, stuck her hand in first, and then slowly pushed her head into her elder's living space. Once her eyes became accustomed to this tense darkness, she glanced around. A small table where he would often write his battle plans, where he would often write his ideas, if any were needed. and several pillows on the ground. No bodies. Once again, Luca pulled her head out of the tent and fixed her hair back in place so it was no longer tickling her face. She glanced around for someone who she could make an inquiry of. Those who were awake were well into their evening tasks. It was unlikely they'd have noticed the elder or the guest unless they were approached directly. Still, Luca had to find them. She approached a man who was curing leather near... One sec. Alright, I was talking to the husband for a second. Okay, where was I? She approached a man who was curing leather near the elder's tent. A middle-aged man wore a gruff expression as he practiced his craft. Leave me alone, he growled as she neared. Have you seen the elder? Not bothering to listen to him, she went ahead and asked, have you seen the elder? Or his guest? Pasteen. Pasteen. Okay, that's the name. Sorry, just remembered it. The man responded with a grunt, with another grunt. Nope, with a grunt, and shook his head, saying nothing more as he focused on his work. Thank you. Luca replied with a shrug and went to find someone else to ask. The next, everyone she approached in this manner all had the same non-response. No one had seen the elder, nor were they willing to stop their evening tasks to discuss it with her. There was one other group that might know, however. She glanced toward the entrance to the camp. no one was visible. No one was visible. So that was the point. She walked over to a tree. And with practiced grips, climbed it until she was high enough to view the... She walked over to a tree near the entrance. So she was the entire camp from her vantage point. Sitting on a branch, just above her was another woman wearing similar black leather, her hair pulled back into tight buns, so as not to get tangled in the trees' branches. Woman said nothing, but instead held up a hand and signed in the Azordic sign language. What? Luca balanced herself on the branch and signed in return. Elder missing. Guest missing. Seen them? The watchman gave her a confused expression. I guess today's emotion is confusion. The watchman gave her a confused expression. Then shook her head to indicate that she did not. Then she held up her hand to indicate to Luca to wait. One sec. I wasn't going to turn on the microphone just for that. Well, maybe I should get a button that makes it easier for me to do it. Anyway, then she held up her hand to indicate to Luca to wait. Luca leaned her body against the trunk of the tree as the other woman moved around so that she was facing another tree and made some more hand signals. Hey Jesse, got it because you only know me as Jesse? I mean, that's fair. I'll take a look at my bios later, I guess. Watchman gave her, then shook her head to indicate that she did not. Then she held up her hand to wait. Luca leaned her body against the trunk of the tree as the other one made some more hand signals. Luca knew what this other one was doing. She was going to ask the other watchers they had seen anything. It would take several moments for the word to pass along the entire perimeter. And come back. But if there was but if it helped her find Elder Elkin and their guest, then it would be worth it. Once the woman above Luca came back to her perch, Luca leaned away from the trunk and stood at attention, ready to receive the response. The woman signaled. Elder and guest walking north. Luca this felt new to her. Why would the two of them need the safety of the camp? This felt new, odd. Why hadn't they returned? Luca signaled. Indication on how long? The girl shook her head. The tracker nodded and gave a signal of thanks before making her way down the tree. There was nothing notable about the forest north of camp. Would Elder Elkin escort the guest out of camp toward that area? Something wasn't sitting right with her. She needed to check it out as quickly as possible. Alright. Next chapter. This one's going to be a fair chapter. Yeah, I realized the screen's going to be blank for a couple of minutes. Sorry about that. Okay, so where was I? Okay, the Farah was dropped off by Luca several miles away from where she was picked up by her. Either way, while she was grateful for to be dropped off. While she was grateful to be dropped off, she still had over, because of how far she'd traveled, taking the Foreseen to the border, she still had at least 2 days worth of travel ahead of her before she would find her way back to the Aldering tribe. Alright. Oh, let me check my word count. Hold on. Cool. That was weird. But either way. So, my goal for the day is to get to 6110. So, I'm about, what, 500 away? So, cool beans. Alright. Back to the Aldering tribe. I'll need the other woman was generous enough to give her some of her jerky on when they were together. The other woman from the Azordic tribe. They were together earlier in the day. But it wasn't enough for but she didn't leave her with any rations. She rations to take with her. The brunette crouched low. The brunette found a fallen log and sat on it to contemplate her next steps. She was exhausted, both mentally and physically. She could sleep, but considering this was close to where Luca had dropped her off, she did not feel safe if any of the other Azordics found her. She had no weapons. She had no weapons to fight. She had no weapons to fight with, no horse to ride. She was alone. Oh! We are at 5 viewers across both channels. So let me go ahead and give y'all a little bit more to read. Well, shoot. Still in the white, but when it scrolls up some, then you'll have a little bit more to read. Alright, she was alone. She was alone and unarmed. Staying still was not going to be an option. staying still was not going to be an option. She would need to move and potentially move throughout the night. If she did rest, she would need to make absolutely sure it was in a secure place where no one would be able to stumble across her in the event that she overslept. And of course, there was the matter of food. She was certain she could find berries in these woods if she looked in the right spots. But they wouldn't help. And they might help in a pinch. Still, a rabbit or deer would be much preferable. She scoffed at herself. How on earth, or how was she going to be able to hunt a rabbit, a deer, much less a rabbit, without any equipment? She could probably muster together some sort of trap with the right forest elements, but she wouldn't be able to skin it or eat it. If she got lucky, she might be able to make a fire. But even then, she'd be cooking the animal whole, skin and all. That did not seem appealing. So her choices were difficult and hairy. Forest animal, were difficult and hairy roasted forest animals, or berries. With a sigh, Farah pushed herself off of the log. There it is, she said under her breath. She knew generally where she was. Still in the Southwood. She needed to travel eastward to meet up with her tribe. If she got lucky, she might be able to run into scouts who might be looking for her in Caden, or even picking up where, or even taking over the task, since at this point it was likely assumed that she would not be coming home. The berries she often would pick during these outings, during her scouting trips. Scouting trips grew on shrubs that were no taller than her knees. Those shrubs often liked to grow around thick trees. Trees larger than a horse's body. If she could find those characteristics, she might be able to find some berries. Water was important too, of course. However, if she could find berries, she'd find water within them. She'd find water or some liquid within them. If she couldn't find any of that, then there were always the leaves of the trees. As it would be for her to and then there were always the pliable leaves of the trees and shrubbery. It might not be the best food to eat, but it was better than the alternative. She just had to keep that in mind. But first, she had to start moving. Sitting down was proving to be a bad idea. Now that she was standing again, her legs did not want to move. It was with great effort that she was able to begin trudging in the direction that she needed to go. What action is going to happen this chapter? Could she keep this up throughout the night? It wasn't looking very possible. Still, she wasn't going to stop. Stopping meant that she would certainly be found by people she would rather not be found by. It was growing quite dark. But Farah found herself scanning constantly, not only for the berries, but also for the any chance or any secluded spot that might not be able to be easily found by scouts. Of course, if she found it, they would also likely be able to find it. The hill to her south was sandy, was full of loose dirt and rock. The hill to her south was, and the forest to her north was had loose groupings of trees, but nothing that promised full what's the word? Privacy, that promised to hide her from anyone walking in any direction. Glancing at the hill, she wondered if she might be able to get a better vantage of the land of the forest and see if she might be able to find a good resting spot. It only took her 2 tries to climb the loose earth before she gave up. Her energy was not at a point where she could fight. Excuse me. Where she could fight against the elements like that. So she found herself trudging once again eastward at the forest's southern edge. I need something to happen. Just don't know what I want to happen. Oh, there we go. Figured it out. Then she paused. Oh. Step. Just her footfalls, and the silence of the forest. The woman paused. And tilted her head, listening. Why was the forest silent? Birds and other animals would be resting, of course. But there were also the animals that thrived at night. Insects. Where were they? Was someone nearby? On edge, Bear crept to the closest tree and tried to listen intently for any other sound that might be coming through, that might be happening. Excuse me. To the closest tree and try to listen intently. That might be a clue as to why there was no nocturnal noise. I'll look something up real quick. I know if I do it on my computer, it's going to kind of mess things up for y'all, so I'm going to do this on my phone. Okay, cool. Thank you for that little interlude. Alright, I want to say I got about 45 more minutes, but my husband said that he might need me soon, so I will see. Alright, anyway. Then there was the sound of flapping. Nothing else, just flapping. Then a bird call and more heavy flapping sounds were heard. The woman, I said the woman already, Farah, Farah looked in the direction that the noises were coming from. The night sky had painted the forest hues of blue, indigo, and black. Had painted the forest where those flapping were coming from was a tangle of blackness. Large birds had descended onto something several yards from where Farah had been hiding. Care inverts, she realized. Relaxing. Something had died there, and they were getting their meal for the evening. Still, she thought to herself, found herself slowly, cautiously. Oh my goodness, sorry. Walking over. An animal's death wouldn't necessarily silence such a large area of the woods. Of the forest. She was the hand that she saw outstretched on the mossy earth in front of her. Agreed. Dun dun dun! Alright. Alright, one sec, guys. Alright, y'all. Hubs needs me for something. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap it up here. Let's see what the word count is, though. Let's prepare to be spammed by word count. Alright, well, we beat the goal for the day, so that's awesome. 728. Alright. So, once again, thank you all so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I am going to go ahead and wrap it up here now. And again, I will be back tomorrow, aiming for about 8 p.m. Eastern. Remember, this screen will go back to the default block of text until there's 5 viewers, and then, you know, as more viewers come in, the screen will increase, yada yada yada. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up here. Have you guys a great rest of your day, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye!